All right. Good morning. Welcome back to Gutted Good Grief. We are so excited to be here. My name is Becca Chafee. I'm your host. I'm with my co host, Sydney Rose. And this morning, we are honored to welcome Taylor Vickerman. Taylor is a counselor and co founder of Soul Care Center of the West Coast and offers a variety of services. But today, we are diving into IFS or Internal Family Systems. IFS has been a meaningful part of my growth journey, helping me better understand my internal system or collection of parts and really cultivate a deeper sense of self trust, expand curiosity and compassion, and honestly, find my voice. So I am truly honored to welcome Taylor. Taylor, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here with you both.
Yes, absolute honor. So let's start a little bit about just right at the beginning. Tell us, what is IFS? Give us the general idea.
Yeah, great question. So IFS is a funny little acronym for a longer name. That's Internal Family Systems, and kind of the genesis story of it all. The founder was a family systems therapist, and so really, what he would do is he'd sit in a room with families and try to help them navigate what they were navigating, which, as you could probably imagine, is a pretty complex process. But there's lots happening there, and conversations and people's stories, and the more people you add to the room, maybe the longer sessions get. And yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a gifted person to do that. But as he, kind of began, that was his beginning, and as he began to work with more complex kind of diagnoses, you really begin to understand that actually there's this
So,
concept of like tending gently and compassionately to each person that's in the room that really applied to individuals. And he really began to understand that there's actually a multiplicity of the self. That might sound scary, and it certainly did to me when I first heard it because I was like, "Wait, what?" Everyone has the question, multiple personality disorders? And it's a great question, right? And but ultimately, what how I like to explain it is one of my favorite ways is thinking about like, have you? I have to ask a question. Have you ever had the part of you that's like, I want to eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's because it sounds really good.
oh,
The other part of you that goes, "Oh, I don't want my face swollen or my stomach to hurt in the morning." Right. And so we have those different voices in our heads, those different emotions, those different thoughts, feelings, whatever. IFS just kind of personifies them, like really leans into them. And the reality is that we're all having a subconscious dialogue 24/7. What IFS does is it gives us the ability to bring that to the surface and really see that dialogue in real time in front of us. Because one of the most important things is that sometimes we think we are our thoughts or our feelings or our emotions, and it really keeps us stuck in them. It kept me stuck really for a long time. But when I go, you know what? There's a part of me that's feeling really sad right now because there might be some other parts of me that feel angry or feel hopeful or excited. It gives us enough spaciousness to go, there might be a possibility of something else being present here to help us maybe not feel sick. That's one possibility of how that could look, but there's certainly many more possibilities on how that could look. But that's just kind of a 30,000 foot view of kind of what it does. And I can get to some of the more granular of that, but that's kind of like,
the
the-
general idea.
yeah.
I would like to get more granular, but first, I also want to honor the reality that absolutely, that was, I think, one of my first questions to you was like, do I have multiple personality disorder? I absolutely was curious about that. And there was a level of anxiety because as you start digging into these parts, I'm like, I do have that part. I do have that voice. Oh my gosh. And there was an anxious part for sure that was presenting. And as you mentioned, it can sort of get you stuck. And so let's first define part. So what is a part? What is, for example, yeah.
Yeah, great question. Actually, maybe to take it in a different direction if it's okay, because I feel like it's really helpful to know what our self is and then
Yes.
contrast that to parts. So IFS posits that, there are parts of us, right, which are kind of three different layers. And we can kind of talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But to contrast that, to kind of help us have a North Star, IFS says that underneath all of these parts that they're not inauthentic parts of us, like they're parts of us, and I'll talk about that why, but our self is the grounded, wise leader that's within us all. And there's certain qualities that come out when we're in a self-led state.
Mhm.
These qualities are, or we call them the 8 C's or the 5 qualities, like compassion, feeling connected, feeling curious,
Mhm.
confident, courageous, like, all just a bunch of C words, right, to help us really know when our self is online. So, question I like to ask is, when have you felt the most alive in life?
Mm.
And, just thinking about that, what do you feel in your body? Yeah, for me, it's I played ice hockey growing up, it's being on the ice. I have a 3-year-old son, and I love playing outside with him, going on a wonderful date with my wife. These are beautiful things, I can see it on your faces right now.
Yes.
There's an energy about it that's contagious,
Mhm.
and that's beautiful, and so, neurologically, what's happening is actually that the part of our brain that's most reasonable, most rational is online. It's called the prefrontal cortex, and that really is just a phenomenological way, these 8 C's, to define what's happening neurologically in a really simple way. And so we can really now, okay, let's just say you're going throughout your day and you stumble upon something. Do you sense any curiosity there?
Mhm.
Is there any confidence or compassion? Any clarity? You have calmness? If so, then you might have some self energy there to maybe help you navigate whatever you're navigating.
The
Yeah.
Mhm.
way you described that was very beautiful because it helped me to understand that these sensations we feel in our bodies are able to be held online as we use words and engage that prefrontal cortex. And suddenly it's this integrated self that's fully experiencing this moment and able to define it, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah. Well said.
I'm gonna take a second to pause here and list all 8 C's because we've had people in the past say like, "Wait, pause so I can write them down." So the 8 C's, as you're mentioning and are gonna weave in for sure, are curiosity, so that strong desire to explore, clarity, so being easily understanding and free from confusion, compassion, so that depth of empathy and concern for well-being of others and yourself, confidence, we love confidence, connectedness, courage, creative, and calm. So, yes,
Mm. Yep. Thanks, Becca. That's really helpful. And having those top of mind is, at least for me, a real lifeline. And I may be just dipping our toes into those managers right now too. So there's parts, right? Parts of us, again, are not bad. And this is the beauty of IFS, is that I'll share my cup of tea is depression. Before IFS, depression was my moral failure because I wasn't trying hard enough. I didn't have all the answers. For whatever reason, it was my fault. And when I began to see what was happening in my body, my mind through IFS, I really began to understand that this depressive part of me was protecting me from something. That is part's main function. They're protecting you from something that maybe once happened to you from never happening again. And anything you can think of, whether it be anxiety, OCD, maybe overeating, over drinking, over shopping, whatever. These are all your body's way of saying, I need to keep Taylor, Sydney, Becca safe.
yeah. Mhm.
Which the question then becomes, when did they first learn that they needed to keep us safe? And that is the beauty of IFS, is that it's trauma informed, because the body, as we know, the beautiful book, The Body Keeps a Score, the body does keep the score.
Yeah.
I like to say, if we could think our way out of problems, I wouldn't have a job. It's just fundamentally, one of my favorite quotes is Albert Einstein, "The same level of consciousness that created a problem cannot solve it."
Yes, I love that so much. It's so
That
true.
feels like such a core of what I'm hearing today about IFS is that as we're born and have negative and positive experiences happen to us, we start to learn how to navigate life. And so as a baby, I think about my little one needing mom and needing dad. needing grandma, needing the puppy, needing a sibling, needing the friend that she grows older. And those pieces become a part of her and her voices is what I'm starting to understand as we lean into the world on
Yeah.
our own 2 feet, still trying to integrate these different voices.
Yeah, well said, Sydney. Yeah, it certainly is. Its experience shapes us.
Mm,
Um, and there are good experiences, right? And then there are challenging ones. And
mhm,
the challenging ones are the ones that actually then become the parts of us that are so good at their jobs and keeping us safe. But when I work with folks in what I do, it's that they're working too good. So the question then becomes, when did they first learn their job? And then why don't they trust the person that's sitting, the person's true self,
mm,
that they can keep them safe? And the
mm,
beautiful thing that actually happens in that moment is we begin a relationship with ourselves. We begin to compassionately tend to ourself, our younger self, our wounded self, whatever it is, because whether we like it or not, we're probably not talking to ourselves very graciously, kindly,
mhm.
compassionately. I remember there was this one time where somebody asked me, "Do you love yourself, Taylor?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I think I do. Yeah, yeah, I think I do. Right.
Yeah.
And then they asked me the question, What was the last kind thing you've ever said to yourself?"
Mm,
I was like, "Oh my God,
mm,
I don't know."
mhm.
And so compassion, self compassion is only developed through witnessing and understanding your story.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
so getting really, really granular, there are three types of parts, right, that are really good parts, but can become really frustrating if we don't understand that they're parts. One, we'll just start with exiles. This is the very bottom layer. And this is kind of what trauma is whether it be little t or big T trauma. There's an experience that you had that shapes how your body responds to your environment, what you believe about yourself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's say it's something really heavy, like you had an unwanted experience that deposits something in someone's body and someone's mind, which that maybe there's confusion in, maybe there's shame. And what the mind does is it's beautifully brilliant and also beautifully frustrating on the older because when that moment goes that really young solid and protect that wounded person. Or maybe you felt like you were attention seeking or something like that. You know, you always wanted to do the hit or bite or whatever when you're a little kid. I would actually say that the hitting and biting is a manager part of you
Right.
that is protecting something that holds a lot of shame. Maybe they didn't feel wanted or enough.
Mm.
And as you're sitting here listening to that story, you're tending to that story. I can see it on your faces with compassion. Like, oh,
Yeah, it always hurts when that little piece of shame we all know you can see reflected in such a little face and such a
mhm,
little body, not
mhm.
understanding what's going on.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm. Mm.
And we have tons of those stories
Okay.
that we
Mm.
carry every day. When we have tons of managers that protect us from ever having to open up that story because it's so painful, and we're worried someone offer me compassion because usually we don't want to offer ourselves compassion. Because
Mhm.
usually there's a part of us managing that, keeping it at bay, or self-critic that's saying you can't ever say anything about that because people are gonna A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right?
Mhm.
So getting a little we that's a little bit about exiles where managers, they're really easy to identify. We're
Mm.
usually always in some sort of part of us, right?
Yeah. Right.
Whether it's hypervigilance,
Mhm.
maybe it's your like work part, maybe it's your planning, maybe it's your road rage driving part. I don't know, whatever it is. I joke, my wife, bless her heart, she has this major cleaning part of her. Like when she's on the roll, you just get out of her way. Like you don't want to help her,
I
you get out of the
I
way.
see her. Good
Yeah,
for her. I get it.
yeah. And I have my cooking part. Like I get in that way. I'm like,
Mhm.
get out of the become like this Italian like super
Mhm.
get out of the kitchen, whatever. Like
Oh,
I'm not angry. I'm in the zone. So
Right? You're in
yeah.
flow. You're in a flow
yeah,
state. You're part
exactly.
in it.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to point out something that's also really relevant and important as you're talking about exiles, because something that stood out to me is you mentioned we use really strong language with ourselves all of the time, as you mentioned. And when you said, for example, depression was like, it was my moral failure, I was like, ah,
Mhm.
because a lot of people feel that. And it's a really deep part. And I'm thinking about these exiles and things that people have a lot of pain surrounding, often things that aren't their fault. They internalize as their fault, they bury them, all of the things. It's deep. But sometimes they don't know that they're protecting them. So I want to call that out because we have incredible manager parts that you're mentioning. And it's not that this is necessarily always a fully conscious, like, I don't talk about that. It's buried, it's deep. Sometimes we're responding to things and protecting things that we don't even realize we're protecting. So I just wanted to bring voice to that it takes time to get in there a little bit.
Yeah, well said, Beck. I think that lines right into like a really good, important piece to understand about managers is that again, they're a good part of you because they're managing your system. Like they're
Mhm,
keeping it locked
mhm,
down
mhm.
in a way to keep you safe. So the system that got you here to where you are today is good. And I always love to ask people this question. I have like a hyper vigilant part of me that sometimes keeps me up thinking about the
Yeah.
next thing I need to do for whatever business or career, whatever. And I always love to ask people who have a part of them like that. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you didn't have that part of you?
Mhm. Yeah. Mm.
And it generates so much gratitude
Mhm.
for that part in a paradoxical way. Like there's so much frustration. There's a part that's usually frustrated at that part. Like, go to sleep, Taylor. Come on. But that part exists to push that one down so that I can go to sleep. And it usually doesn't happen.
Mm.
Or when I offer that compassion and the gratitude, they actually kind of fall down and I
Yeah.
get to go to
Mm.
sleep. I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of in the weeds of how to navigate
No,
management.
get in the weeds. It's
The
important.
stories were very helpful for me to understand the IFS system as a whole. So that
Mhm.
is something I'm appreciating for sure.
Yeah, certainly, and maybe later on we can do a invitation to
Yep.
sit with some of these parts. I
Mhm.
find that really helpful as well, so we can maybe do that later. And yeah, managers, Becca, any questions or Sydney, any questions that come to mind for you?
Yeah, it could be helpful to have a few more examples. So I love the example of one of your manager parts being the rotating task list. So I have a manager part for sure that I always visualize like a Rolodex, constantly looking through what's coming up, what's needing to happen. And I appreciate that you're providing real time examples so that people can start to identify them. Because I would say for sure, at least when we first started, I was unable to really even identify a part because it's been with me for so long. It's just part of my what I thought was part of myself. And so it's helpful to have a few more examples, I think, of types of manager parts, that it's not always just anxiety. There are many other ways the manager parts present. So
Yeah, yeah, great question. And again, it makes it, I'm grateful for you, yeah, even tapping into that because what we would call that state where you're like, I feel like just me is we would call that a blended state.
Mhm. Mm.
Which means that, yeah, there's a part of you online and maybe there's some curiosity or confidence popping through, but you don't have the awareness
yes.
Mm.
that there's something else present. A real visual I'm a visual person, like, yeah, and I'm grateful for the vignettes are landing because they're helpful for me, but the movie Inside Out, that whole
Mm.
movie is actually IFS. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there's that, the motherboard, the control of the ship, so to speak, and every little emotion's there, has their, hand on the steering wheel, and it does certain things to Riley. And so, ultimately, going back to this blended state, this the authentic self, the
Yeah.
managers or whatever, we're not looking for a zen mode all the time. So
Mm.
that'd be awesome, but our parts, our bodies, it just doesn't work like that. We can work at being as grounded as possible, but really, sometimes we need our parts.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes we need to have a little bit of anxiety to get us over the hurdle, right? But maybe that hurdle's over and then that anxiety is still present. That's when we would say, okay, maybe we need to do something here, right? But being blended with a part isn't bad, and we wanna just generate that awareness to go, "Hey, something's present here that doesn't feel calm." Like, I don't feel clarity. I don't feel like I have a choice. That's kind of a ninth C that I can like
Mhm.
into
Mm.
IFS. And what's happening, right? And we just tune into that and be curious. Okay,
I'm
what's present here?
Thank you for sharing the analogies that you have. I really appreciate the addition of choice
Yes.
because it reminds me of alongside of Inside Out, The Matrix, with the choices, and we have all the controlling parts that might multiply and be frightening. We might have the piece of us that wants to explore the subconscious, and the piece of us that wants to stay grounded in the same reality and the same system we've always had in the way we operate. And so with IFS, do the parts of us, the managers, the exiles, I've heard Becca mention a couple others, are these pieces in theory that are more subconscious? And so by verbalizing and recognizing, we're bringing these pieces to our awareness in our conscious reality.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
It's like the Carl Jung fate,
mm,
until you make the
yeah,
until you make the unconscious conscious, you'll call it fate and it'll direct your life.
that's a cool one.
And it's a haunting one,
Say that one more time. That was so good.
Yeah, yeah. The Carl Jung quote,
Yeah.
just disclaimer, he's not everyone's cup of tea,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
but yeah, until you make the unconscious conscious, you'll call it fate and it'll direct your
Yes.
life.
I
Which, he's just saying your manager part's blended with you and you think you're making a choice, but you're actually
Yeah.
just responding to perceiving that something bad could happen. Like there's a bear in the room, but there's no bear. And that doesn't make anything wrong with you. It just means your system's trying to keep you safe. And that's a beautiful thing, right? We don't want to walk through the world and get hurt all the time. The analogy I like to share is there conditions out there where people can't feel pain.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which on one hand seems like, "Oh, wow, that sounds great." Like, I can just, feel okay all the time. To folks that have managed chronic pain, that would be probably like a gift. And at the same time, it's a tremendous challenge
Yeah.
because pain helps us understand where we're getting hurt.
It's data. Yeah.
Yeah. And so these parts of us, how they transform with ourself being curious is they actually help us set boundaries within ourselves and with people. And I love to share that boundaries are not just keeping things out, they're keeping things that are sacred in. Whether it's the coworker that is continually condescending, or it's the family member that kind of always brings up that topic that's really uncomfortable because it lands with a part of your story that's really painful. It's not you saying, "Hey, I don't want to be near you," which that's totally fine with also, right? It's you saying, "Yeah, I just can't be with you in this way.
Mhm.
We need to adjust how we do this." But I think something really important to come back into, and this feels really important to just name the unconscious piece. A question that people often ask is like, "Hey, great, Taylor, like, I want to get to know my unconscious self, right?" Which paradoxically is like you can't really do until they name that. And so that's why the body is so important.
Yes.
Most often, the most hidden part of us is our analytical part of us.
Mm.
It's kind of this floating head that's up here, called the brain sometimes, like mega mind, sometimes more people call it. It's not actually here.
God.
You know, we feel usually most self here, just down through our sternum, the broadening in our shoulders. That's where when we feel most creative. Like there's this breath that comes into our body. The breath is so connected. So a lot of times, if you want to know a part, tune into your body. Where are you holding tension? Do you get headaches? Do you get upset stomachs? Do you have that phantom pain? Are you holding your breath? Are you breathing too much? Those are what we call trailheads into some of the unconscious. So even right now, even this podcast, right? for the listener, how are you listening right now? What are you noticing in your body? And could there be a possibility that something here, something really, good part of you is keeping you safe?
Mhm.
There's something that I've said that sparks curiosity that really lands with me. I want to know more about that. Maybe there's confusion, which is usually a part of you, with a trailhead for shame or something like that. Just getting really curious and just tending to what is here. But yeah, maybe that's a good spot to just be for a second. I just want to tune into you both, see questions, thoughts,
Yeah.
these.
So first, I love that so much. I think our bodies do know. Our bodies are incredible guides. And when starting my little IFS trailhead, like, what is this? I was sort of expecting like words from parts to communicate. So identifying them through the body, yes, that's one way to sort of identify. We can, I think, when zooming out, noticing when a part is present by coming back to those 8 C's. Am I experiencing these? Am I curious? Am I compassionate? Am I feeling creative? Am I courageous? If not, a part might be present, right? And then, as you mentioned, going inward, checking in with the body to see, is a part connecting with you? Is it able to talk to you? Are you identifying something? Is my chest is beating rapidly, as you mentioned? Maybe I'm a little anxious. Can I sit with my anxious part? And then taking that, I guess, one step further, slightly, is when communicating with parts, they're not necessarily going to be like, yes, I'm anxious. My name is Joan and I'm really upset. That would be fantastic, right? That's not what happens for me. So for
Mhm.
me, I have to feel it in my body. So I have some really recurring sensations in my body that I notice. Sometimes my eyes get hot or I get teary. Sometimes my stomach hurts or it starts to get fluttery. Sometimes my heart beats. And so bringing the body into it, bodily awareness is yes, notice what you're feeling in your body. That can be a really strong indication that the part is present and you can sit with that for a second and breathe. And I also want to honor how often I'm very honored to work with Taylor through IFS. A lot of this process is very quiet. So you don't have to narrate it the whole time necessarily, but sitting with yourself is a surprisingly significant task. It's really hard. And then just really understanding and listening, and then letting your parts speak to you or connect with you through those bodily sensations. So know that it's not just a sensation that alerts you to a part, it's also how you'll get that affirmation as you're connecting with the part. I don't know if said that
Well
appropriately to you.
said. Yes, well said.
Okay, so bringing it back. So we've talked about how to sort of identify self, some traits of self. We've talked a little bit about parts. There really are no bad parts, how they're protecting us, oftentimes in exile. So things that have happened in life that left a mark and that our bodies have very wisely decided that's not going to happen again. No, thank you. And so they've sort of held on to that, and this little exile's holding on to that burden. And then we have protector parts, protecting both the exile from experiencing that again, protecting us from the exile, from re-experiencing that pain, right? They're very, very busy. And then we've talked a little bit about how to sort of identify those parts and connect with them. But I want to bring in also what are some examples of more extreme parts when we're really not sitting in that space long enough, we don't have the opportunity to connect with ourselves or find those parts. How do they reactively respond? Firefighters.
Yeah, great question. Wonderful lead in. Firefighter parts are one of the most misunderstood parts of us because there's usually a lot of other parts of us that really dislike that this one is present.
Yeah.
And a firefighter part can look really like anything. It can be your body just shutting down. Mhm. It can be grabbing one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 drinks. It can be anger or
Mm.
rage. It can be the Amazon cart being really, really full, whatever it is, right? And I say those with compassion
Yeah.
because they are really good parts of us that come in and rush in when we've not tended to either the managers, the exiles enough.
As you're describing this, I immediately pulled back. I think I missed half of those because I detached, and I feel that piece of me absolutely playing with what you're
Interesting,
talking about.
man.
Yeah. Great awareness, Sydney. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love to actually call that little piece Jeff with a G. I know a Jeff with a G. He is not this way. He's wonderful.
Yep.
But I thought it was hilarious
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
when a piece of me detaches and makes up crazy theories, sometimes to protect myself. Like
Mhm.
the conspiracy theorist in math class is one way I've heard that. And so it's wonderful to hear these more difficult pieces of us described and hear what Becca is saying about having to sit with them, but in a presence of somebody who feels grounded and can also provide that safety. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Sydney, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah,
Mm.
it really reshapes how we sit with ourselves, right? And one common experience is like, I wouldn't say this is a firefighter per se, but it's more of like a manager style, but someone who navigates intrusive thoughts. Usually, intrusive thoughts are trying to flag what could be dangerous around losing something that we find sacred. You
Yeah.
know, so some others experiencing postpartum, right, and having some really scary intrusive thoughts about their
Yep.
child. A
Yep.
really common experience, but it's usually just an intrusive thought saying, "Hey, make sure this doesn't happen," and feel
Mhm.
really bad about it, having that thought, so that you never do it.
Yeah.
And we paradoxically say, "Oh, such a good part of you, of course you wouldn't want that to happen to your child."
Mhm.
And what it does is just that shame
Mhm.
really just that fuels more of that vortex. It just kind of doesn't exist anymore. But going back to the fire.
So grateful that you brought in intrusive thoughts. I've never thought of that as a firefighter, and especially as you mentioned, like postpartum, absolutely had them, still have them. I have awful thoughts occasionally of just like the worst possible thing that could happen to Thea. And I'm like, where the heck is that coming from? Like, how is my brain doing that? And my natural thought is, oh my gosh, I'm bad. I'm capable of having these shadow thoughts. What is this? And so I love the reframe of pause. That's a, hey, you really don't want this to happen. This is a sacred being to you. And just what a gentle shift that is such a gift. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great question. And it's something that's really important, maybe going back to maybe more of an extreme firefighter would be, and again, just if this feels okay to talk about, it's just really important. Just in my story is like, suicidality
Yeah. Yeah.
is, we call that an extreme firefighter. But as I sit with people who navigate those firefighters, what the funny thing is actually these firefighters, they most deepestly long for us to live.
Very. Mm.
It's not that they don't want us to live, it's that they don't want us to experience the pain, and that's why firefighters exist is because the pain becomes so much, there's a fire, and they need to put it out.
Yeah.
It needs to be now with whatever is present or whatever worked in the past.
Yeah.
They're just keeping us safe.
Yep.
So the more that we understand how we care for, understand what's coming up from our bodies in these firefighter parts, these kind of the warning signs of maybe they might be activated,
Yeah.
or we just develop that relationship that's so much compassion, so much clarity of understanding why they do what they do and for the good reason that they do it. It becomes this beautiful metamorphosis moment as we sit with firefighters, as I've sat with folks that have suicidal hearts,
Mhm.
that they actually become an invitation for them to go, maybe I need to go play golf.
Yes, I
And
love that.
Or maybe I'm gonna have that frozen yogurt today.
yep. Mhm.
And, there's a really beautiful redefinition of how that part shows up. There's so much that happens in that process. It is not just a real one and sometimes it is, but there's a lots of trust that needs to be built with all of these parts that is really time consuming, really has to be thoughtful
Mhm.
because usually we have to be very careful that we are not trying to get rid of these parts.
Yes.
And that's another really important piece to this all is that there are no bad parts.
Mhm.
They have all good intention. The reason they exist is because they don't trust the wise leader that we can keep ourselves safe. and they're usually really afraid that they're gonna be evicted from our house or lose their job and, get fired, and we're not here to fire anyone, we're actually just here to help them be a more effective team member.
Mm.
Yeah, that person said that thing that really didn't sit well with us. Oh, now I got my people pleaser part that
Mhm.
wants to make it okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
What do I really feel about this? Am I okay with that? Do I want them to keep talking to me like that? Oh, now I'm really worried about what I might say, what they're gonna say to me, what the people at work are gonna think of me if I say that thing. That becomes a whole different way to sit with that one interaction to help you feel okay walking away from that and safe instead of living into the cycle and how your system has kept you safe historically
Winner.
situation. So it
Mm.
really becomes that choice. What do we want to do now?
Yeah.
How do we want this experience to be different? Um,
You're thriving, you're doing great, and I love it, and it's so
Mhm.
helpful to hear because you're right, it's really just what you're outlining is the reminder with that firefighter part really still being a protective mechanism. There's a source of pain, I'm gonna put out the pain in the fastest way that I know how. And it's doing its job incredibly well. And I want to honor too that the firefighter's job is to stop the pain. It's not to solve all of the other things, right? So we can get really mad sometimes with this firefighter part. Like, why would you do it that way? Well, okay, calm down, right? Like, I'm never going to come and talk to a firefighter who's spraying a hose at the house to put out the fire because they're not doing it how I want it to be done. That's one step of the job.
yeah.
But then the rest of it is like you're saying is really zooming out and having those conversations with yourself. So what I was thinking about as you were saying, because I felt like you were in my head a little bit of the, oh, if I say this, I look bad. Oh, shoot, if I say it this way, they're gonna think this. And how do I really want to respond? You're giving yourself a chance to go into advanced think before you speak, which we hear it all of the time, but sometimes you don't really know what that means. And we need the tools and the pathways to really dig in and understand and welcome. I love that night C choice. How do I want to respond? And sometimes zooming out and taking those few seconds when the firefighter will give you minutes. For me, one of my firefighters is I've really worked with it, but at first I would close my throat. I'd start like choking, just start crying, couldn't speak, totally lost my voice, would totally shut down. My firefighter was like, "Okay, you're done. Thank you so much." And so having a second to, like you said, thank your part, no bad part, like thank you for giving me that space. I recognize I need to pause. Find your breath. Give yourself a chance to think and let these other parts come up and help you out until you can get yourself back to self. So, for me, one of the most helpful ways to do that is literally looking through my little 8 C's all the time. Have them on my notebook. Where am I in a space of curiosity right now? No. I don't like this dude. Like he's making me mad. Okay, I'm judgy. Great. Thank you for showing me that part. I see you. I'm thankful you're here. Am I clear? No, I have no direct path. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to do A, B, or C. Okay, cool. Got it. So I have a part that's working on analyzing this. Noted. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. Like you're starting to kind of hold a little conference almost with yourself. And who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't want to make sure that you're able to make the best possible decision for your future? That
For sure.
you're weighing out options that are compassionate for you and for others that really are the best step forward. And it's just nice to be able to have language to do that instead of immediately making these knee jerk responses. But
Yeah. Well said, Becca. I think if I could just offer to the listener, if there's any skepticism, rightfully so. It's a great skeptical part of you that
yeah,
doesn't want to do something different
yes,
because
yeah,
the things that you've been doing have kept you safe unto this point.
Yeah.
And I'd offer to you that, and this might have a little bite to it, but I say it with the most compassion because it's part of my story. Even that idea of having a conference with yourself, you're like, I'm talking to myself. That sounds really silly.
yeah,
The definition of madness is doing it the same thing over and over and over again, expecting the same result. And I was there.
Mhm.
I didn't understand what these parts were and why they were doing what they were doing, and I kept doing the same thing over and over again, and I kept hating myself more and more,
Yeah.
thinking I'd get a different result.
Mhm.
And just inviting you, the listener, into that there is a different way.
Mm.
And there's self is contagious as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like it's like the best cold you'll ever get because you'll start attracting things and finding opportunities and having a redefinition of different relationships, especially with yourself.
yes, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's the same idea of the phrase anxiety is contagious, right? If you're mean to somebody and like you mentioned, road rage earlier is a firefighter part, and then they're bringing that anxiety to their home. So then they snap at their kid, and then their kid's upset. So they snap at the dog, whatever. We see that contagion all the time. We talk about those parts spreading. Self is the exact same way. It can go the other way. You can take a second to find your breath and extend some compassion. People feel that, right? They carry that into their day. Maybe they take a deeper breath at their seat and go into their day with a little bit more clarity. And you mentioned too, when you're living from a space of self, the world shifts fully, at least in my mind, because I'm not navigating from a lens of fear anymore. And so that's a huge gift. We're not here to live in fear, right? We're here to live in a
Mm,
space of love and kindness and curiosity and fun and joy. And it takes practice to do that.
This is not easy work, is it? I imagine as you're breaking patterns in your mind and in the way your body moves, your heart's going to break a little bit. You might feel like your whole system is shattering
Mhm.
around you. And I could imagine a lot of parts flowing up as this is happening over time.
Yeah, Sydney, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And offering this as a possibility, my conviction as an IFS therapist is
mm,
that it actually doesn't have to be breaking.
Yes.
Greenland.
Actually, I always like say if it feels like breaking,
Mm,
then it's probably a part of you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So
Mine felt like really,
yeah, what we want to do is we want to
mm,
tend to these parts compassionately and
mhm.
gently so that they feel like if they just gave up one part of their job or doing it a little
mm,
less hard, that they'd trust that Sydney, Becca, Taylor would be okay.
mhm,
Hmm.
We don't want to force anybody or anything because that's fundamentally how parts are made is
Yeah.
they're forced into doing things they don't want to do.
believe,
And so we wouldn't want to create another part. And so we want to listen, witness, understand, develop that rapport so there's trust there. It takes time,
It's always him.
but slow is fast. And
Yes.
sometimes we when we don't have an agenda with those parts, huge feature of parts is they always have agendas. There's no agenda with self. You can sit here as long as you want with this angry part of you. Give it a blanket, cup of water,
mhm,
sit with it on the couch, make it some popcorn, watch a movie, hang out. That sounds silly, but sometimes I need and sometimes I just go, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. You can help me. And it's a beautiful process.
I think
mm,
it is a beautiful process. And I also want to honor what you're saying about that relief, that nurturing, and also Sydney about that, like, oh my gosh, there might be some pain in this process.
mm,
I cannot speak for everybody. And Taylor, you work with so many people in this, so I'm sure your bandwidth is wider. But for me, the harder part was learning the language and learning what my body was trying to tell me, of understanding what does this sensation mean. Because once I can start identifying that, and really build trust with my parts that I don't want to get rid of them. I'm so freaking thankful. My parts are amazing. They work so hard for me, and I'm so thankful. There's a sense of like when you're working with them of catching your breath and like a gentle hug. It's like, no, I'm okay. You can take a break here for a second. And so for me, Taylor, you talked about the three N's: notice, name, and nurture. And with doing that with parts to help identify and just bringing awareness to body, but it's noticing yourself, right? Naming what's going on for yourself, and what a privilege to be able to really take time to feel seen. You can do that for yourself. And then nurturing every little part of you. So it can, I think, feel scary, especially when you think about the idea of, oh my gosh, I'm going to maybe meet this exile. This is scary. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to feel this. You're meeting it, for me, from an absolute space of compassion. So it truly is, I think, a very healing modality. But that's
Yeah.
just my little, just
Yeah.
mm,
Well said, Becca. And certainly there does feel like shifts,
mm,
but usually like epiphany is kind of this process like, that
yeah.
happened in the process. Like, oh wow, I do that because of this, that. That makes a
mm,
lot of sense to me,
Yeah.
bonjour.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it just felt important to offer. But
Yes.
I'm curious if it's you both, and no agenda here. This is your podcast, but just a possibility. Sometimes IFS is better caught than taught, right?
Yeah.
And so would it be helpful to maybe just facilitate an experience of it for us all.
Yes.
I could just do a generic kind of invitation to us all. I
I would
just
like
even for the
Mm.
listener as well,
Sure.
like to
Mhm.
participate. Would that be okay for everyone?
yeah,
Or kind of
yeah.
you'd prefer to have like a one-on-one experience as well?
Let's
Let's go for the whole circle.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I like to close my eyes as I lead these invitations, so you're more than welcome to do so. If not, you can whatever feels comfortable. Find the soft gaze, something you're looking at. If you're driving, be careful. Uh,
Pull over.
yeah, pull over. Yeah, and yeah, just being here right now and really just pulling attention to the breath, finding the breath in through the nostrils, down into the stomach, expanding the stomach, and out through the mouth. Breathing deeper with each breath. If it feels okay to you, totally fine. If not, free not to. You can just place your hand on your heart. Again, whatever feels best. Just feeling the cadence of your chest and your heartbeat. As you hear it, it might be a deep breath to be with your breath, maybe in the midst of your day or whatever. There might also be ones that are popping in, maybe with those things to do, the conversation you need to have, what happened yesterday, sleepy parts of you, whatever. You're all welcome. And just whoever's here, just if they'd feel okay, just being courageous and showing you who they are, an emotion, thought, sensation, feeling, vibe, whatever it is. And I just invite you to find your curiosity as you sit with whatever's present and identify maybe one that sticks out to you. Maybe you sense some compassion or some curiosity about it. Whatever it is, just ask that part, that one that's present, if it would be okay to be with it for a second. And just let it know it doesn't have to if it doesn't want to. It's totally fine. That you're really curious and want to know it. You have no agenda. And if it's okay and with that, and then there are no other parts that have objections to that, just invite it to wherever feels most peaceful. Maybe it's at the base of a mountain. Maybe it's on a beach. Maybe it's at a coffee shop. Maybe it's in your living room. Whatever feels safest, wherever it feels most comfortable. Just be with it there. Maybe even see its face. If you can't see its face, that's fine. Just the sensation of what you get. Maybe it's a color. Maybe it's a word. Maybe it's even a memory. And as you're with it, maybe you just let it know how old you are. And just maybe you just notice what happens in your body or with that part. Maybe it likes that, maybe it doesn't like that. That's completely fine, whatever its response is. And as you're there with it, if you could just ask it, what sort of thing do you do to keep me safe? If it responds, beautiful. If not, maybe it just needs something else from you right now. Maybe it just needs to be sat with. That's okay. If it did respond, then perhaps you could ask it, what do you wish I would know about your job? And as you hear its responses, if you don't feel maybe compassion or clarity or connectedness with it, perhaps there's another part that's maybe frustrated at that's coming in. Just gently ask it to step back so we could be with this one right now on the couch or wherever it feels best. And really just ask this part, the one that we're sitting with, what it's worried about if it didn't do its job. And if that makes sense to you, the reason why, perhaps just thank it. And let it know that you see it and you are open to hearing its voice in your life more, tending to it now that you know its worries, concerns, and how it keeps you safe, and that you really want to develop more trust with it. And that it's not going anywhere, you're not getting rid of it, not being evicted from your house. At the same time, you want to help it so it doesn't have to work as hard. Just ask it if it would be open to that possibility. And if not, that's totally fine. And as we become kind of maybe into the end of our time with this part for today, just let it know that you're going to set an intention to come back to it. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, whatever feels best. And if it'd be open to meeting with you again. And if it feels okay to it, just uh, thank it. And you can either come back with you into this moment or it can stay there on that couch or that beach or that trailhead, whatever feels best. And yeah, coming back to this moment, thank you to all your parts for being okay with us sitting with the entirety of yourself today.
Okay. You were right about sitting with the practice versus hearing about it for how powerful and resonant it could be, that deep understanding in my personal system. Thank you for sharing that, Taylor.
Yeah. Thank you, Sydney, for being open to it.
My heart is so full. I am so
Mhm.
thankful. Thank you for digging into this art, for sharing this art with other people. It's such a gift. It's been a huge gift in my life, and I know many lives around the world. And as we wrap up and um, tie a little bow on today, I want to invite you to share. Is there anything else that you wish to share in this space today, Taylor?
Wow. One of my favorite quotes maybe would be a good place to land. Howard Thurman has this quote that says, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you more alive, because what the world needs is people who are alive."
Hmm.
And self is the way that we feel most alive. It's called self energy for a reason.
Yes.
No.
So
Oh,
what's happened in this space is a gift to the world, and so I'm grateful to be a part of it.
so,
Committed to helping people find what makes them alive.
Mhm.
mm, thank you, Taylor.
Thank
Amazing. Well, you can learn more about Taylor's work at Soul Care Center of Washington and West Coast Soul Care Center of the West Coast, right? Sorry.
Mhm.
And we'll certainly link his website below. But thank you, Taylor. We're so thankful. It's an honor to have you today.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Good grief. Good grief, 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 grief. Good grief.